Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law I won't dress modestly around her husband? I, 33 female, have been married to my husband, 33 male, for 4 years. 1 year ago, I had my daughter. When I was a teenager, I had been S.ed by a family friend multiple times. This has left me with a lot of complex feelings about my body. My abuser told my parents that the abuse was my fault because I dressed slutty around him. He was 40s and I was 14. For years, I would only wear baggy clothes and not do my hair and makeup. I've gotten some therapy and worked hard to overcome these feelings of self-blame, but being pregnant and having a baby messed with my body image a bit. I have been working out a lot and am really liking my body currently. It feels very freeing. My SIL, 29 female, knows all about my past abuse and my issues with blaming myself and my teenage clothes for my abuse. She is married to my BIL, 30 male, and the 4 of us have always gotten along. We are going on a trip with my husband's parents, my BIL and SIL, and their 2 boys, 8 and 6 male. My SIL texted me and asked me to not bring any bikinis because she had 2 young boys. I thought this was weird, but I told her that I wouldn't if that was important to her. She came over last weekend, and I had clothes out to pack for our trip. She wanted to see what I was bringing. She framed it in a fun, lighthearted way. She saw my bathing suit and asked me why I was bringing that since she asked me not to bring a bikini. I told her it was not a bikini, but a covering 2-piece. She got very quiet and started looking through my pile of clothes. I also had a maxi dress that has spaghetti straps. Again, she asked me if I could bring some more modest. I told her it was uncomfortable and it was such a big deal for her boys to see me in a dress. She finally admitted that she did not want me to wear any flattering clothes or bathing suits around her husband. She said her husband had been struggling with a porn addiction and the clothes I was bringing would make it hard for him and would be tempting. This is where I may be an asshole. I was so grossed out and angry. I told her very assertively that she was crazy if she thought I needed to cover my body to keep her creep of a husband from jerking off to me. I told her how wrong she was to say that to me when she knew my past issues. I also told her she is gross for at first using her kids when the real reason is she didn't want her husband looking at me. She started crying and left. She called my husband her brother, later crying and asking him to make me bring more modest clothes. My husband completely took my side and told her if it's such an issue for her husband, then maybe they should not come on the trip. My mother-in-law has now gotten involved and is asking me to bring a more covering bathing suit and modest clothes. Edit. For context, my husband's family is extremely religious. Think Duggar family religious. Edit 2. Sorry I never post on Reddit. I'll give more info that has been asked. My BIL has never made me feel uncomfortable. In fact, I thought we had a good relationship. He was not raised in the Pentecostal church, but did join when he married my sister-in-law. My husband and I both grew up in church, but have since left. My ML has asked me to bring modest clothes, but she has not mentioned an addiction issue. I assume she knows, but when I look at her messages objective, it could be very possible that my sister-in-law told her I was bringing very skimpy clothes. Also, my husband is paying for the trip completely. I bought my dress recently. This is the dress. I thought it was beautiful, and I was so excited to wear it, especially since I had a baby 9 months ago. I might even return it because it feels like it's tainted, and I just think of my in-laws when I wear it. Update 1. Well, thank you so much for your support, especially those of you shared experience with in the past. My husband has been away for work, but landed early this afternoon. On his layover, he canceled the reservations for the trip. He is currently on his way to his sister's house to confront my BIL. His plan is to show up to their house unannounced and take my brother-in-law out for a drink, and talk to him away from my sister-in-law. I will post an update tomorrow. Thank you all so much for your kind words. OP was voted not the a-hole. Relevant comments. Strangeloop 414, not the a-hole. Wear whatever you want, whenever you want. You have been through enough in your life with people judging your appearance and trying to gaslight you into thinking your appearance somehow causes trouble. I am so sorry for what happened to you when you were younger. I'm proud of you for putting in the work to overcome something so awful. OP. Thank you so much. I've done really hard work to be able to function and be a good mom. Unfortunately, I think I may be going back to therapy after all this. Commenter. NTA and def NTA, since I read in a comment of yours that your husband is actually the one that is paying for this whole trip. Are you kidding me? You guys are paying and they have the audacity to ask the ones funding a trip for them to cover up. I would find the skimpiest bikinis and outfits I could find and then tell them they are more than welcome to take their judgmental, mooching a-hole selves back to their own houses if they didn't like what you were wearing to the place that you guys paid for. OP. The whole reason my husband paid for the trip is that they are two boys and can have some fun. They never get to do trips because their parents do not have financial means. I think that's the main reason I feel guilty about telling them they can't come. It's my brother-in-law that should feel guilty. Juflip. I'm so sorry you're handling this sort of past trauma and current guilt. But here is where you draw the line in protecting your peace. If you and your husband want to offer something special for the boys, you can save this money and sponsor something for them in the future. But now is not the time to make yourself vulnerable to a misogynistic SIL and a creep of a BIL. Protect your peace. OP. That's really good advice. I hadn't really thought that we could use the money to have the boys do something without us. That's fun. My daughter is only 9 months old and I definitely don't want to creep around her or a woman who enables him. Update 2. Hi everyone. I accidentally deleted my OG post last night, but I will post the body of my original post in a comment below. I want to say thank you all for your support and advice. Thank you for people who damned me with their personal stories of abuse and church trauma. I'm so grateful for you sharing your stories. To answer, if you have any questions. I am very average looking, but by conventional standards. I have a nice body. I'm 5'6" and 120 pounds. Since I had my daughter, I've been going to Pilates 3 times a week. For the first time in my life, I have some abdominal muscles, which I'm very, very proud of. I don't mean this as a subtle brag. I also put a good amount of effort into the way I look like I do my hair and makeup and wear well-fitting clothes. My sister-in-law is a very attractive woman. She is much taller than me. She has gained about 40 pounds since she had her kids. And I know that she feels a bit self-conscious about it, but she said she's not willing to change. She said that she's a mom, so it doesn't matter what she looks like. I wonder if she's having a bit of depression because she's about how now she stays without even showering. Again, I'm not saying myself to my sister-in-law, just trying to give a better picture. So for the update, to make things clearer, I will refer to my husband as Tom and myself as Kate. I referred to my sister-in-law Jill and my brother-in-law as Jack. My husband showed up at my in-laws' house unannounced last night. He said my brother-in-law was happy to see him and he asked to go for a walk with him so he could talk. One thing that was interesting is that my brother-in-law wasn't under the impression but the trip was still on for this Saturday. My husband said this is the most awkward conversation he ever had. He started by asking Jack, my brother-in-law, if him and his wife are having any trouble because his wife had mentioned that he had a porn addiction. My brother-in-law rolled his eyes, said he's only looked at porn once since Christmas. He looks at it once every couple months. His wife is convinced it's an addiction. He told my husband it's frustrating because he feels shamed for normal sexual desire. He also confided in my husband that him and his wife have not had sex in over a year, and he's not sure what to do. He said he has suggested counseling, but his wife only wants to see someone from the church who is not a licensed therapist. My husband said, well, Jill said it was enough of an issue that she didn't want Kate to wear a 2-piece bathing suit or a sundress on the trip because it would be difficult for you. He said my brother-in was very surprised and upset and asked a bunch of questions about the incident. My husband said that my brother-in-law was mortified. My brother-in-law said, wait, does Kate think I've been thinking about her in that way? My husband told him that was what Jill implied. Again, Jack was mortified. He profusely apologized to my husband and said that it's not the case at all. He said he wanted to apologize to me directly, but he didn't want to make me feel more uncomfortable, and he was so sorry. My husband asked him if he had any pictures of me and his phone that he had taken without my consent. Immediately said absolutely not, and gave my husband his phone and told him to look through it. My husband also asked my brother-in-law Jack if he had made any comments about my body to his wife or others. Jackson said that he had made a few comments that he thought were innocent, but in the light of day, he can understand how they could have been construed otherwise. He said that he had made comments when I was pregnant about me being glowing. He also said that recently he has been talking to his wife about how he thought it was adorable that I had made a point to work out and make time for myself after my baby was born. He said that he had mentioned I had looked good, and he knew how hard that is to make time to work out with a little one. Jack apologizes that he realized that these comments he thought were innocent might not have been the most appropriate, and then going forward, he will be careful, but he says his wife and others. My husband told him that even though the air has been cleared, the trip is off. Jack said he completely understood, and he would tell his boys this morning, and that he would be talking to Jill. About an hour ago, I got a text from Jill saying, "My kids are devastated. I hope you're happy. I have ignored her. My husband is going to talk to his parents today and wants to give it a few days before you talk to her sister. That's all for now. Thank you again for all of your support. Edit, because I can't recover my original post. This is the dress that I bought that my sister-in-law did not want me to bring in the trip. I think I'm going to keep it because, honestly, I love the dress and everybody hyped me up. Thanks again." Update 3. My brother-in-law sent this text to my husband about an hour ago. Please share this with Kate if you feel like she's in a good place. Kate, I am so terribly sorry. I know this is really uncomfortable, but I just wanted to let you know that I have never used any thoughts or images of you in a sexual way. I feel sick to my stomach having to say that. I really truly apologize if I have made comments that made you feel uncomfortable. I'm sure there's more I could say, but I just wanted to let you know how truly apologetic I am for the whole situation. I understand if you do not want to see me and Jill for a while, and that's totally okay. Please don't feel bad about the trip. The boys are fine. This was a good apology, and I tend to believe him. Relevant comments. Ice_wolf_Fenris. Is there a chance Jill is cheating on Jack? Just no sex for a long time gives me that vibe. OP. I would be shocked if that was the case. She was 18 and he was 19 when they got married. He's the only man she's ever been with. Interestingly enough, they got married so young because they were having sex and her parents found out and pressured them to get married. Commenter. It's unfortunate that really the whole problem is that Jill is insecure and, it appears, a bit jealous of you. If that's all Jack, I don't see the problem. At least now you know Jack hasn't been a creeper toward you. And yet again, Jill can't take any responsibility for her actions and is trying to blame you. You aren't the cause of her kids being devastated. This situation and not being able to go on this vacation is completely on her shoulder. I hope that you, your husband, and the family still go and get away for a bit though. It would be nice to relax after all the BS. OP. My husband still has PTO next week. He's going to see if we can change the planned tickets and go somewhere just him, me, and our daughter. LittleBitFinny21. If Jack is telling the truth, I suspect he is, particularly since he so willingly handed over his phone and expressed both a desire to apologize and awareness you might not be comfortable around him. Then damn that poor guy. His wife is making him out to be a sexual predator. I hope he can get a divorce. OP. Also, my husband believes him, and I trust his judgment. My husband said if he's lying, he's got to be a sociopath or something because he seemed very sincere and forthcoming. Adventurous_basis 280. Holy crap, sounds like your sister-in-law is having some serious issues. She doesn't want to have sex with her husband, but also doesn't want him to take care of himself. Sounds like she is just reflecting all of our insecurities onto you and blaming it on the BIL. Hopefully this opens his eyes, and he takes action. If she is saying this type of crap to you, who else has she been lying to about him? OP. I suspect she has also been spreading the narrative to her parents because my MIL originally also asked me to not bring the dress and to pack more modest clothes. Historical goal 3786. My concern is what she is teaching her kids. OP. This also concerns me. Up to this point, my husband and most answers that we left the church. My husband's family knows our feelings. But we know that they can live their life the way they want it. I'm just afraid that her boys are going to grow up with some twisted ideas about sex and women. Bothered me about growing up in the Pentecostal church. That boys were told they couldn't be alone with girls because they would be too tempting. It made me feel like it teaches boys they don't have to control themselves.
Story 2. My wife went out last night and didn't come home until this morning. This is horrible. I'm furious right now. But I'm also depressed as hell. I know what I have to do. It's just killing me that I have to do it. It's fresh, and it hurts a lot. My wife didn't come home last night. She went out with a couple of girlfriends, which is pretty normal for her. She's normally back around 2 a.m. on these nights, so I waited up. Around 2:30, I called to check in. She answered, and I could hear people in the background. She told me they went to a party, but were leaving in a couple of minutes. She wasn't home by 3, so I texted. It delivered, but no reply. Around 4 a.m. I called again. It rang a couple of times before she sent me to voicemail. My wife finally came stumbling through the door at 6:47 a.m. this morning. I know the exact time because I was worried. She was wearing a dress she didn't leave the house in, with mesh leggings I've never seen either. The leggings had clearly been torn, and her makeup was smudged. My heart sank when I saw her. My immediate worry was that she had been assaulted. She only shook her head no when I asked her that. I asked her what she had been doing then. She only said that I knew what she had been doing, and that kind of confirmed what the voice in the back of my head had been screaming since she walked in. My wife cheated on me last night. I asked her who it was. She shrugged almost casually and said it was somebody they met at the club. She went back to his house and hooked up with him, then Ubered home. She then said she didn't want to fight and just wanted to sleep. So that's what she did. She's still asleep now and didn't even take a shower before passing out. Suffice to say, our relationship is over. We don't have any kids, and we rent, so it shouldn't be an extremely complicated process. I keep trying to reason myself out of it, pretending there might be something to salvage here. I've always maintained that cheating would be a red line for me, though. I think I need to stick to that now. Update 1. Alright, things have happened. I am no longer at home. I left. I wasn't able to get the day off work today, though, so I'm writing this on my lunch now. It's been a struggle keeping myself together today. Honestly, I've had to sneak off to the bathroom twice to cry. Shit's rough, dude. I'll post something more detailed later on because holy FINGSH #T, there's a lot. I'm exhausted. I've only slept about 4 hours total since this all happened. Does anyone know if I should post the actual update in a new thread or just update the one I already made? It's going to be a lot of text, probably longer than the first one by a bit. Also, to the woman who felt compelled to send me a topless picture. Thanks, but also no thanks. My heart just isn't in that sort of thing right now. Update to me again, folks. I'm sorry I didn't get around to this sooner. I wasn't able to get the day off work yesterday because my boss kind of sucks. I was a complete mess at work yesterday, though, so I was allowed to take the rest of the week as vacation. Thankfully. I think I went through all of the stages of grief while my soon-to-be ex was sleeping. I wasn't expecting my post to get any attention at all. I just figured I needed to try to talk to someone about it because I was not in a good headspace. I made the post in the morning, and by noon, she was still conked out in the bedroom. I had processed things a bit more, and I had a rough plan in my head that I was starting to set in motion. I made a short list of questions I wanted answers to, gathered up all my important documents, laptop, etc. Then I went into the bedroom and started packing myself a suitcase. I know a lot of folks wanted me to kick her out. I did consider it, but honestly, I'm not overly attached to this place. We just rent, and I'm in a lucky enough situation to be able to say that paying half the rent for a few months isn't going to financially end me. It'll sting a little bit, I won't lie, but I'll make it, and I feel like being around this place is only going to remind me of her anyway. I need to be looking forward, not back. She ended up waking up about halfway through me packing my suitcase. There was momentary confusion as she looked around the room, then she just started bawling. Maybe this is awful of me, but I didn't bother comforting her. I told her I had the screenshots of her Uber and text messages from her phone, and that plus her confirmation was enough that things between us were completely done. She didn't answer me and just cried louder. I debated trying to continue the conversation, but I decided to just pack the rest of my suitcase and head back out to the living room until she came out. When she finally left the bedroom, she sat next to me on the couch and asked me if we could talk things through. I told her as calmly as possible that wasn't how things were going to work. I was going to ask questions, I wanted honest answers. She told me she'd be honest, so I proceeded. My voice was shaking the entire time. It was taking me everything to hold it together, but I kept going. Was this the first time she had cheated? She started crying before she answered that, then told me no. She had cheated on me multiple times over the course of our relationship. It was, and I'm going to use her words exactly here, just sex, a way for me to let off steam. None of it ever meant anything. I wrote a comment shortly after making my post that all the love couldn't just fade away in one swoop. Well, it hit me right then that I wasn't dealing with my wife. The person I was married to literally wasn't in the room. This was someone different. She refused to tell me exactly how many times she had cheated, just more than last night. Had she used protection? No hesitation from her before she nodded her head emphatically. She seemed surprised I'd even ask that. I'm still going to get tested just to be safe. I did some research into timing, and I'm going to look after it. Were her friends also cheating on their spouses? Yes and no. I tried to get her to tell me which of her friends were cheating so I could get in contact with their spouses. She probably should have, because her refusal led to me messaging pretty much the romantic partner of every one of her girlfriends I could find on social media. There are a couple I don't know or couldn't find, but I did my part. Why did she do it? This was the answer that gutted me the most. I'm going to use her exact words again. I need to have sexual variety. I told her that it's not like our sex life is dull. She clarified. It's not the same as something new. I didn't even have a response to that one. I had expected something about me working too much or not supporting her emotionally. Nope. She just fucked other guys because she felt like it and wanted to have some fun. When I didn't respond, she started asking me about counseling and therapy. I reiterated that our relationship was over. I'd be leaving. What she did next disgusted me. My ex actually tried to have sex with me. She put her hands on me and started trying to take off my clothes. I felt like I wanted to vomit and pushed her away after a couple of seconds. She just kept telling me that she would figure out a way to fix it, that we would work through it together. I told her that there was no way, and she started bawling again. She went to the bathroom and locked herself inside. I was just sick of everything at that point. I called her mother and told her what was going on. The full story too, the cheating, the questions I had asked, and the fact I was leaving. I've always had a good relationship with my ex's parents. They both decided to drive to town, which is about an hour for them. Once I knew someone was on the way, I just grabbed my things and left. Her waterworks in the bathroom were just annoying me because it felt hollow to me, especially given the answers to my questions. I ended up packing another bag before I left and took all the things that I could think of that I felt sentimental attachment to with me. I found a parking lot and sat in my car until I was able to get in contact with a buddy for a place to crash. I tried to take a nap, but I was running on way too much adrenaline. I knew when her parents had made it to the apartment because she started calling me. When I didn't answer those, she started texting me. She had gone from sad and crying to furious. Apparently, I'm a fucking piece of shit for telling her mom everything. Whoops. I'm not sorry. I've received roughly 100 texts from her since leaving. They range from name-calling all the way to begging me to come back, to sending me pictures of the food she ate for some reason. I haven't responded to any of them. I feel like I said my piece before leaving. So that's where I'm at now. We didn't have joint finances, so that part was easy. I canceled all the subscriptions that go to my credit card just to be sure, and changed all my important passwords. I'm crashing on a friend's couch for the next bit, but I've got some feelers out to some short-term rental places until I can find something more permanent. I've got feelers out for a divorce attorney too. A coworker of mine had a recommendation, so barring something better, I'll probably go with them. I also wanted to say that I was shocked how supportive everyone was, and thank you for that. Truly, from the bottom of my heart. It isn't easy for me to talk about emotional things with people close to me. This was an invaluable venting place for me. Thank you all so much. Final update. Hey folks, I'm happy, I guess, to say that this will be the final update to what has been probably the most difficult chapter of my life. I've felt an immense amount of support from the community here from my initial 2 posts, so I wanted to give a short update. Bottom line, my ex and I both signed the final papers for our divorce this week. It feels kind of surreal to think about that still. About 2 weeks into everything, she got resistant. I cut her off entirely, and she refused to return my attorney's calls for a little while. Eventually, things got back on track. As for the infidelity itself, I don't have a ton more details to share with you. We did a short mediation, and by that time, I didn't feel there was any remorse on her end. I've talked about that a lot with my therapist. I'm in therapy, by the way. It still hurts that someone who I thought loved me could have apparently cared about me so little, but I'm working through it. That's really all I've got to share. Thanks again, everybody, for your advice and support.